Hello everyone, welcome to the last part of this video series where we are going to be completing our to-do app. Let us do a quick recap what we have done in our previous video. We have learned how to send our first request to Appwrite. We have learned how to create new accounts, and we have learned how to log into an existing account, and we have learned how to check if the user is logged in or not. So that's what we have done in our previous video. So if you not completed this, then you will not feel comfortable to move forward. You need to complete this before proceeding to this video. Before proceeding further, I would like you all to install this provider and shared preferences and simply run pubget, and these two dependencies will be installed because we need these two dependencies. First, we need a provider. We will be requiring a provider for our state management purpose, where we are going to reuse our data in multiple number of widgets. We are also going to see any changes in our provider, and we need to update it throughout all of our widgets. So let's create a folder like controllers, and here create a new provider that will be to do provider, and here name the class to do provider extends change notifier, because we need to reflect the changes in our data. So first, what we are going to do here, we need our database ID and collection ID. This is our Appwrite console inside to do app. Inside databases, just create a new database and name the database to dos. And here I'm creating a collection or users to dos. User to dos, I'm naming it user to dos. And first I'm creating an attribute. The first attribute, let it be title, make it string, default size I'm leaving it to 1000. I'm not marking it required. Let's create it. Now we need another attribute. Let's create another. This will be description, and here it will also be string. I'm making it 5000. Let's create it, and we are also creating is done. It will be a boolean, and it should have a default value to false. It is not required, but and next we need something as a key so that we can identify that which user has created the to do. So let us add created by, so that we can know which user has created. And we are going to add the attribute type to email, and we are marking it as required. Now it's okay. So we have created 4 attributes, and we are going to use it in our application. So first we need the database ID, define string database ID, and here let us use the database ID. This is the database ID, copy it from here and paste it. Now we also need copy it from here, collection ID, copy the collection ID from here and paste it. Let us define the database first. So let's make it database, and here we need to use the client. Now where is the client? We have already mentioned client inside our author tab. So let's just import that client. Okay, so now we have imported. Now, since we are returning a list of to-dos, so let us create a list of to-dos. Let's make it as an empty list. Now, here we need to change the return type to the document that Appwrite has been created for us. I'm marking it as document since inside this document model that Appwrite has already created for us, it contains ID, collection ID, database ID created at, and it also contains the data. Data means the data that we have created, the attributes. Let us just create a method so that we can read all those data. So it will be list of document and it will be get all to-dos. Let's just send to-dos. We will get all the to-dos. So when we call this all to-dos function, we can get all the to-dos that is private in this file. We will be able to access it. Okay. So now let's create a document first. Like, let's give it a title. Let's give it a demo image. We have created one document, and let us create another document like go to market, buy some food. We have created two documents now. So this is the data is done is set to false, so it's showing not applicable. Now we need something that we can read all those database. But before that, this is an important step that inside setting, we have not yet set any permissions. So just change it to all users, and we are going to set the permission that all users can create a new to-do, read and update. Yes, all the users in our app can perform these operations. Now we have updated the permissions. Now let us create the function to read all to-dos. Let us create a future function read to-dos. It will be asynchronous, and here we need to try catch it because it might give some error, so it's good to try catch. Let's create a new variable data, and inside data we are going to await, and inside our database we are going to use this function list document. It's going to list all the documents inside our database. So here we are providing database ID as our database ID and collection ID as our collection ID. So that's done. Now let's modify our to-dos to the data that we are receiving data, but it's saying document list can't be assigned to list of documents. Instead of that, we need to send documents. In data.documents contains the return type of documents. Now we also need to notify our listeners. So simply use notify listeners and print the to-do at the end. So we don't need to print the to-do currently. Let's keep it aside. And inside catch, we'll just print the error. Now we have created a read to-do function inside our to-do provider. Let us create a constructor so that during the initialization state, we want that read to-dos should able to read all the to-dos inside the database during initialization. So I'm creating this to-dos provider dot to-dos provider, calling the class, and inside constructor I am adding read to-dos. It means that when to-dos provider is called, it will call the read to-do function and during initialization. So now we are done with to-dos provider. Now go to main.dart. Inside main.dart, we have the material app with change notifier provider, and we need to add a create function. Inside create, we need to pass the context of the provider that we have created, and in our case it was to-do provider. So just simply restart the app. Now we have set up change notifier to to-dos provider. It means that we will be able to use the to-dos provider anywhere inside our widget. Now we are logged in. Now we can use to-dos provider. We can call to-dos provider and use all its function anywhere inside our app. So instead of welcome user, let us change it to consumer and read the data. Try to read the data that is in our database. Currently, inside our database collections, we have two data. Let us try to read them. Let us wrap it with consumer. Here, we need to provide a builder method. Context, and let us add to-dos provider, and I think in there we need to provide child. Now to return. In our case, let us create, since we are getting less of to-dos, we are going to use list view builder. Here we need the item. For item builder, we will use the item count, like provider dot to-dos dot length. So item count, it means the number of to-dos we are just getting the length of all our to-dos. Item builder, we are going to return context and index, and inside there we are going to return list type, and in title we can return provider dot all to-dos, and inside all to-dos is a form of list, so we need to access it with index. And then inside data, I think we have, but before that, title is a widget, so we need to wrap it inside a widget. Let's use provider dot all to-dos dot to the index, and then inside index we have data. So just print data dot to string to identify if we have anything here. Let us just restart the app. So we are getting two datas. You can see that we are getting datas, like data contains title. Inside provider the data, we are getting title, description, and health and seasonal. So we don't need so many things. Obviously we don't need so many things. We can only, for the title, we can only use the title, like we can get inside the title. Okay, now it's working. So after the title, let's add subtitle. It will be text, and instead of this provider, instead of title, it will be description. Okay, so now it's working. Now let us, since this is a to-do app, we also need to add a leading icon that will be a checkbox. So let's add a leading to checkbox. Value, let us set it to, let us use the value that we are already set in the database. Let's use, it's inside provider dot all to do's inside index and inside data. It was, we have said that is done. It was is done. This it was is done. So is done. So value will be this, and now it's still giving me an error. It's saying on change. So we need to use an on change function. So currently, let us not add any functionality to on changed. We are not adding any functionality, just a void function saying void can't be assigned. Just add a value. So we are just, it's saying try state. We are getting some error. Let us just restart the app. So we are getting an error. I think that in the database it's providing not applicable instead of default. So let's update it to, let's update one of them to true, and let's update another one to true. Let's check it, restart the app. It's saying null is not true. Now it's working, but the problem is that when you're giving the data as false, it's not changing the data to false, it's changing to not applicable. If we change the data to not applicable, if we change the data to false, then it's changing our data to not applicable. And in place of not applicable, it's giving us the error. So we need to find some solutions to fix it. So now let us restart. We will get the error that it's not applicable. Okay, so now it's working. So now it's working. We are able to recognize it to, I don't know, but still it's working. So if, let us just handle the error. If we don't have any data, just simply return it to false. Because if we don't have any data, then we can simply return it false. Because we are not setting this to not applicable, not false. So if it's coming as not applicable, that means false. So it's okay. Now on changed, we need to, the on changed part we are going to do it later, because it's the updating part. Now let us add something so that we can create. Inside to-dos provider, let's create a new to-do. Let us create a new to-do, write a function logic to create a new to-do. So it will be simple. Future create new to-do. It will be asynchronous. And inside the create to-do function, we are going to need a title. Since if the user doesn't want to provide a title, we are making it nullable. If the user doesn't provide title, then it's also okay. And also type description. We are also making it nullable. Now what we need to do, final, it will be our collection. So let's await it, open the database and create a document. We are going to use this function. We are going to use create document function. Inside here, we need document ID, the ID that we get, and also the data. So in case of data, we may supply, but we need to have the document ID. So this is a difficult task for us. The document ID is the ID. When you create a document, this is the document ID. And in our case, we also need to send the document ID. So while creating a new document, so we can use this in document ID. We can use id.unique. It's already pre-built in Appwrite. And in case of data, we will use the data like title will be our title and description will be our description. Check the spelling. If you have any spelling mistake, then it will be difficult. So make sure that you are writing the correct spelling, otherwise it will not work. And now today is done to. While we are creating the to-do, it will be false, and we are also adding created by. So currently we don't have an email. Let us, for testing, let us add a demo email like so. Okay, so we are all done. Now after we have created a new document, let us also read to-dos and also notify the listeners. It means that when you have added a new to-do, we are also reading all of our to-dos and also notifying all of our to-dos to update. So we have created a new create to-do function. Now let us create a widget where we can create a new to-do. So let us create a widget like inside home page. Inside the scaffold, let us create a floating action button. And give it an icon of child. Give it an icon of icons.add. It's okay. So we have an icon to add a new to-do. Let us call create. No, we cannot pass it directly. We can create a new page. Inside this, add new to-do. It will be a stateful widget, new to-do. And here we are going to use scaffold. Inside our bar, let it be app bar, and title should be text, add new, add new to do. Now inside body, we are going to add columns. We are going to add 3 columns. Text form field. First, we're going to add 3 text form field or 2 text form field, and then we should have an elevated button. So now we have created the page. Now let's just add more customization. Let us add decoration. Let us add some customization. Decoration to input decoration, and there we need to add label to title, and here it should be description. I think they both need a widget, so you need to wrap it inside of text widget. So now it's okay. We need to also create a new route, like when we are using new, we can send to context new to do. Now inside home page, let's navigate. Push name, and it should be new. Now when the user presses the plus button, you should be redirected to this page, add new to do. Now inside title, we can add the title and description, and we can press create to do option. So this is good. We can create title and we can create description. Now let's add controllers so that we can control the data. Title controller. And now this will be description controller. We need to assign those controllers. Now when the user press the create to do button, we should call the create new. We should call the function inside to do's provider that was create new to do. But there is a catch. This create to do function is not, we cannot call it directly. So first we need to initialize the provider first here, and it can be done like this. Call the to do provider. Let's add provider. It should be to do provider dot off. It will be provider dot off. Provider dot off context, and Here we need to add the return type. It will be to the provider. We need to add it inside. We need to add it after this line. Now we got the provider, so we need to call provider dot. The function name is create new to do. Here we need to pass the title. So let us pass the title controller dot text, and it will be description controller this controller dot text. So if this is successful, if this is done, we can show a snack bar. You can add to do added. So now let's, in the debug console, we have not yet provided any try catch function. Like, let us just notify it that new to do created. So when we type any new to do, like it says to do added, and here also new to do created, it means that our to do will be added. See, we are able to create a new to do, so that's quite good. We have already created a new to do. Now let us go back. It is also being, we are also being able to read the new to do, so that's really good. And if we don't provide any description, we are also being able to create a new to do. So it's still working, and if we don't, so it's okay. But instead of moving us back, we can add the navigator.pop so that when it completes dot pop. So after we have created the to do, we should be able to navigate to the previous page. So now it's working. So now we are able to create the to-dos. Now let us change it so that we can update the to-do. Let us add the update logic. Now we are already reading the to-dos, creating a to-do. Now let us update the to-do. What we will do in the update logic, we are going to update it to true or false. Either it's completed or not completed. So that's the update part we are going to do. Change the to-do to completed or now we are going to change here. If the to-do is completed, we are going to make it not completed, and if it's completed, not completed, we're going to make it completed. So that's simple. So let's make it change and do mark and create the function mark completed, and inside this what we need to update. So let me just first create a function. Database dot, we are going to use the update document method, and here we are getting database ID, collection ID, but here we need the document ID. That's the point, that here we are going to be needing the document ID. And this one we cannot provide unique ID because we are not creating a new document. We need to provide the ID of the existing document, and the ID was inside. If I show you the document, that document model written by Appwrite, this is the ID. So if we get inside document, we will get $ID as ID. So we can get the $ID. So we just need to accept the ID, document ID. I think it will be in form of string, and the result as like full less than I'm giving. So here we are sending the document ID as ID, and we also need to send our data, like the data that we are changing. It should be is done, and we need to send it to our is done that we are accepting. We have done it. We are done updating. Just to notify that if everything is working fine, we can print modify document, and we are also going to read the to-dos again and notify all the listeners. That's common. Now, does anything when the user tap on the checkbox, we can catch the value, and we can use provider dot. It was mark completed, and here we are going to provide the ID. Our ID was inside provider dot all to dos dot. No, I think it was inside. It was provider dot all to dos, and index inside it was, yes, $ID. So we are providing the ID, and if the value so we are going to send the opposite value. The value that was there is done. If that was false, then it will be true. So we have done it, but let us see that if everything is working correctly or not. Let us restart the app. Now let us press OK. So we are able to modify the document. So that's really great. Let us create a new document. We are also able to modify the new document. So that's really great. Successfully, we are able to update our to-dos. Now, let us add something. Now, let us also add the logic to edit our to-dos, such as when the user tap on this, he or she can edit the to-dos. So let us add another. Let us just copy the add to-do function and create a new edit to-do. Edit to-do dot start. I'm pasting the same thing. Instead of new to-do, I'm changing it to edit to-do. Currently I am not providing any function. Currently I am not providing any function, but let me add when the user press on the to do, he or she can get the option to edit the to do. So inside the home page, I'm adding when user press on the list type on tab, we can redirect him to edit to do page. It will be push named. We need to provide the route. We have not yet created the edit route. So let us first create the edit route inside make node tab. Edit to do. Now let us save it. Now let us test it. So we are being able to add to the edit to do page. Instead of new to do, it should show edit to do, and it should show update to do. Here we don't need to set this empty text field. We can set those data in form of arguments, and then we can update the to-dos. So let us create arguments. We need to send the arguments to the edit page. Now the title is empty. So inside the home page, let us, with the context, let us also send the arguments to what we can send. Let us send the whole data provider dot all to dos / index. We are sending the whole data, and we can use the data that we want from there. We are sending the arguments inside edit to do. We need to catch those arguments. First, let us catch those arguments. Then catch those arguments like final arguments will be model route dot of context dot context and will be settings dot arguments. Okay. Let's add a null check. Let's make it nullable because no documents can also come. Now also change the return type to document since we are sending a document. And let us also change the return type as to document. Now it's all good to go. Now we can do type. Let's create two controllers. Let us first create the controllers are already there present. Title controller. So title controller dot text should be our arguments dot data, and inside data the title that is present, and description controller dot text will be the arguments inside data, the description that is already present. DSC and PTI. So now it's okay. Let us just check if it's working. Okay, so the data is getting updated, so that's really great. Now, what we can do is that in the onPressed function, we need to call the we have not yet created any function. Let us create a function to update the whole to do. So let us create future update to do. Now I don't know what we are going to be requiring. Let's just call the function first and let's see final data is equal to await database dot. The method is going to be update document, and inside we need database ID, correction and document ID. So we need document ID and the data. Okay, so it's okay. So we need string title, string description, and string the ID that we need. So it will be the similar way how we have provided the string ID. Inside of document ID, let us provide the string ID, and within our data, let us add title as the title we are providing, and description as the description that we are providing. So now we have created the function. Let us just also print that data to do modified. Now let us call this function. It was update to do. Oh, we cannot call it directly. We call the provider first. Provider dot update to do, and here we need to provide title controller dot text and controller dot text, and the ID, since we are passing the whole arguments, so it will be similar like arguments dot ID. So it's here. Now let us just try to modify the to do. So we have created. I think that we have not called the notify listener part and read docs, so it was a mistake. So the document is not getting updated. Now let us restart the app. I think we have done it. Okay, so our document hasn't updated. Now let's try to change this. like okay, so the thing that is happening, okay, so you saw that it took some time to modify the database. I think my internet connection is slow, but it's working. To-dos update. See, our to-do is getting updated. So now that's really working. So we have done it. Have you noticed something like the gamer internet spammer is creating all those to-dos? But what we want that while creating a to-do, we can also set the name and everything, like the email, various email. Currently, you will notice that while I am creating a new to-do, I am providing the gamer address spam mail. Instead of that, I need to take an input of either I can save the email. I cannot take the email from the user every time, but it's not possible. And for that reason, I have asked you to add shared preferences as dependency. Now let's open share. Let's create a new file. Shared.dart. Let us call a class user saved data, creating a new class. First, we are going to initialize share preferences. And now let us initialize it. Let's we are creating an initialization function and we are going to initialize it here. Shared preferences dot get instance. Now we are initializing it and let us save the email first. String email is also going to be asynchronous. Let's save the mail preferences dot set string will be email and value will be email and value will be email. So we need to, I think, we need to make it nullable. Now we are saving the mail, email, deleting email, the static string get email, and inside this we can use preferences dot get string and to the email. So we'll be getting our email. What's wrong here? Static get string question mark can't be assigned, so it should be nullable string. That's okay. We have done it. Now we need to use it inside our main.dart app. Let's call it like user save data dot init. So it will initialize the app. Okay. So it will initialize the app during the main.dart, and instead of providing us a normal email, we can add the email that the user we are saving inside the database. So let's just change final email is equal to user save data dot get email. So using this function, we are going to get the email, and instead of created by, we are going to provide the email. Now it will not be saved, so we need to log out first. After the login is completed, we have created a new session. Let us create user, and inside it will be our email. So now it's okay. Let us log in. Let us create an email. So to do has been added. Let us check inside our database to see. Now we are able to create with the desired email. But one question arises that here we are able to read all the to-dos. Here we are not only able to read the user's to-do but everyone's to-do. But this should not be the case. So total we have 8 to-dos and the user is able to read all those to-dos. This should not be the case. We should supply some queries so that the user is only being able to read the user to-dos. So let us modify the read to-dos method. So it's simple. Inside the read to-do, in this document, we can also supply queries. So we need to supply all the things. There is already a function for us created, that is query, where we only need to send the attribute and the value. Now we can send created by, and it should be the email, and our email was user save data dot get email. So now it's okay, got the email. Now let us restart the app. Okay, it's saying index not found by created by. Since we have not yet created an index, first we need to create an index. This is an important step we have not yet done. It was that we need to create indexes. Like the index will be index 1, let it be, and we need to make it as key, and it will be created by. So it means that we are not yet created an index and we are trying to make queries. So now we have created our index. It's created by. So let's refresh it. It's a very important step. Okay, so this was the to-do that we have created and it's working. Let us create one more. So our to-do is working. Now we can create and edit and update the to-do. Now let us the last part, that will be how to delete the to-do. Inside home page, let us also add another button that will be trading icon button. And we need to pass the on press. So we have added delete button and now let us write the delete function. Let us go to our to-do provider. Delete a to-do. During delete to-do, we also need our document ID. Database dot delete document, and here the document ID will be ID. Now simply when you have deleted, just read all the documents and notify the listeners. So that's very simple. Now let's link it. Now when the user press the delete button, let's call provider dot delete to do. Here we need to provide the ID. The ID is inside our provider dot all to do's index dot, and here is the ID. So we have provided the ID. Now let us check if that's working or not. So it's working. So we have deleted all those to-dos, but let us also show that we don't have any to-dos, because currently we don't have any to-do. How the user will able to understand? Inside home page, let us check if provider dot all to-dos dot length is 0. If provider dot all to-dos dot length is 0, then we are going to return center and the text inside that no to-dos. Let us now create a new to-do. My internet connection is not that good, so it's taking some time to update. Now it has been updated. it's okay. Now within that time, let us show a circular progress indicator if our to-do is not yet been loaded. We can also do that just inside. Let's close everything. Just go to to-dos provider. Here, while we are reading the to-dos, we can also set something like is loading. Underscore is loading, and we can set it to false. Now when we are reading the to-dos, we can change it to is loading to true and notify listeners, and when our documents has been loaded, we can change is loading to false again. And inside error, if we also get any error, we can also set is loading to false, otherwise it will show us a infinite circular progress indicator and also notify the listeners. So we have done it. Now we need to check inside our homepage.dart that if we don't have any data, means if the data is loading, we have not yet set any method. Like we can add one more, check if it is loading or not. So we can add bool check loading is equal to, so we can return is loading. So we can check the loading. If it's false, then it means it's not loading. Here inside homepage.dart, now what we are going to do, before that we can check that provider dot check loading. So if that's true, that means we need to send us inside, we need to send a circular progress indicator, and if that's false, then we should send our to-dos. So just restart the app. Okay, so we are getting a circular progress indicator. Just make it in center, save it, and let us create one more to-do. Now see, it shows a circular progress indicator and then it shows. Now if we delete one to-do, it's also showing a circular progress indicator. So we have done it. Now the part is that identifying completed and non-completed. Suppose if I am ticking this, then it should show me that this to-do has been completed. Like we are going to create two different widgets. So let's go to our bottom navigation bar, and here we are going to add bottom navigation bar, and here we can send like items, bottom nav bar item. Here we can give icon icons dot list, and then label should be to-do list. we need to add one more. We need to add one more list. It should be completed. Something like tick. Icon should be something like tick. Let us get it done. Now restart the app. So now we have two different bottom navbar items. Let's make it clickable. Let us add a current index first. Let us first make it as stateful widget and add a selected index empty underscore selected index. It should be 0. And now we need to add current index to selected index. And then we need to add when the user press any of the items, there we can set state the underscore selected index to the value. Now let's see. Okay, so both the buttons are now working, and we also need to update the UI. So we can edit the to-do. Yes, editing is also working and updating is also working, so that's quite fine. Now let us apply some logic so that the to-do list, only the to-dos that are left will be shown here and the to-dos that are completed will be shown here. Like widget show ongoing to-dos. It should return. Just copy the full consumer thing from here to here, copy it and paste it. Now instead of this consumer, we can add like show ongoing to-dos. So it will have no change, but here we also need to create one more, like widget show completed to-dos. For now, simply return the same thing. Now let us press this. Let us restart the app. So both are showing the same thing, but because we have not done any changes, we can use our selected index. So if selected index is equal to 0, then we can show ongoing to-dos, else we are going to show completed to-dos. Now let's see, both have same data, but in completed to-dos case, we will not in completed. Just now what we can do, we need to move this completed to-dos to the completed part and normal to-dos into the to-dos list. So let's try to create some function by which we can achieve this. Let us update some of our logic inside the home page. What we can do is that on ongoing tasks, if the to-do is, if the checkbox is false, means is done. If is done is false, then it is going to stay in to-do list, and if it's true, then it's going to stay in completed. Let us now change it to inside. We can do one thing inside item builder and say if say provider dot to-dos, all to-dos dot all to-dos dot slash index dot if the data is done, if is done is true, then we should not show it in this to-do list. True, then we should only return a container or a size box. Okay, so it's working. What we did is that if it's true, then it's not going to show here, but if it's, and the same logic we are going to add if that's not true. The same logic we are going to add. So in return, so if that's not true, we are going to return a sized box. So now it's okay. Let us create some more to do. Okay, so now let's change it to completed. So now it's working. So see, now it's working fine. Now one thing we can do, like we can show that no completed to-dos like that thing. If we delete all those to-dos, it's showing no to-dos, but we can also, instead of that, no to-dos, it's showing on this. If we delete all those to-dos, but it's not showing here. First, what we can do inside our to-do provider, we can, let's get the length of all the to-dos that are completed. So this is the thing we are going to perform. int get completed length, and here let us add a variable count to 0 and then use a for loop underscore to-dos dot length, and then if underscore to-dos dot to-dos I dot data and is completed is true. True means we don't need to provide anything. Then at that moment we can increase the count to count 2 plus plus, and then we are going to return. Then we are going to return the count. So in that case, we are going to get the length of total completed to-dos. Now we can use it to read our to-dos, and now it should be is done, and I'll change it to is completed. It will be all to-dos dot provider dot get completed length is equal to 0. So now let's see. Here the thing is simple. Instead of to-dos dot length, we need to first subtract provider dot get completed to-dos. So the result that is getting it, it means that those to-dos are yet to be done. So if those are 0, it means that for that we need to show no to-dos. So now it's working fine. So now let us add a new to-do. Let us add another. So now it's okay. Now let us add a system so that we can delete all the to-dos. In the home page, let us add let us also first let us add a logic to delete all the to-dos. Future delete all to-do. here let us use I is equal to 0, I less than to-dos dot length I plus plus, and what we are going to do here, we need to wait and database dot delete document, and database ID will be inside to-dos dot and I dot underscore ID. Then we need to read the docs, read to-dos, and notify all the listeners. We have created a function so that we can delete all those to-dos. Let us simply create a drawer. It will be inside our home page. Inside drawer, let us add the child as list view, and inside that let us add children's to first list type. Title should be delete all to-dos, leaving icon, delete forever. And the second one is going to be, let's just refresh it first. So we are getting delete all to-dos. And now the second one, let's make it log out. Okay. Now let's also add a user account drawer. The text as like we have now let's add functionality to this delete all to-dos, and also we are going to add functionality to our logout. We are removing this action first. We don't need this, but we can use this logout user function like on tab. User, and then we can navigate dot push replacement name to the check user route to the root route, and in this case on tab we can check we should delete all to-dos that we have created. It was delete all to-dos, and it should we cannot access it directly. Instead of that, we can go to like, let's restart the app now. So all our to-dos are now deleted. Even the completed to-dos are now deleted. So that's really great. And before that, we should get pop, and then we should send this. Let's try one more. So see, it's working. Now we don't need this logout button here. We can remove this. So now we have finally created our to-do app. So now we have finally created our to-do app. Let us create a new account. You see, we have no to-dos. Now let us create one. Let us change the title to to-do app, and let us change our primary search color to green. Let us add a border of outline border inside all of our text form field. So for that reason I am using find and replace. Now let us add side boxes where it is necessary. Also add a padding within the columns. Also make those button expanded so that it can take the most amount of space. Also add a padding within the columns. Let us log into our existing account. Let us now create a new to-do. Let us also repeat the same for add new to-do. Add the side boxes after the text form field. And then wrap column with a padding and give it edge insets of 10. So now we are done with add new to do. We are also repeating the same step with edit to do. Now let us change the color of delete button. We are changing the color of delete button to red. Now one thing I forgot to tell you guys in the previous video, that instead of project ID you need to provide your own project ID that you are creating inside Appwrite. So copy the project ID and paste that inside your Android manifest.xml, and here it will look somewhat like this. So now we are changing the max lines to 8 so that the user can add more description. So now we have successfully built a to-do application and we can perform all the tasks here, such as creating, reading, updating and even deleting. So that's all for this video.